Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and thank you for joining today's web conference, Servicing Actions for Community Advantage Part 2. Please note at this time, all audience member lines are in listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question over the phone, you may dial #2 to place yourself into the question queue. You are welcome to submit written questions during the presentation, and to submit a written question, just use the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen, choosing All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu. If you require technical assistance, please send a private note to the event producer. With that, I'll turn the call over to Onika Brown. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Part 2 of Servicing for Community Advantage. I know this is a pretty busy time for everybody with end of year, and so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. As you know, this call is required training for all Community Advantage lenders, so again, thank you for joining us. After the presentation today, you will receive a copy of the PowerPoint. So please don't send me a text asking me where's the PowerPoint, because you all will receive it right after today's session, and you will receive the recordings for the entire series once the last session has been concluded and I receive all of the recordings. We'll go ahead and send all of the recorded material to everyone. So you'll have both the PowerPoints for reference, and then you'll have the recorded sessions for you to share within your offices as well. Today we have a star-studded lineup of speakers. Our main speaker today will be Shirley Wells. She is with our Little Rock Commercial Servicing Center, and one day I will get that absolutely correct. Shirley has a wealth of experience with the federal government. She has been with the government for 24 years, and she, like many of us, is on the Mega Millions retirement plan. We have Victor Cruz from Colson today on the line with us. Victor is no stranger to the Community Advantage family. He is with Colson Services Group. He has over 20 years of experience servicing, working with SBA and working with Colson and making sure that our reporting is in line. We have John Gossett also on the line. Those of you who were on the last session remember John was our instructor for the last 2 sessions. We are also honored today to have Elviona Buscelli on the line. She is with the Office of Credit Risk Management. And so OCRM is the group that is responsible for ensuring that all of us are in compliance with SBA's programs and making sure that all of your site visits are completed, and they also monitor all of your portfolios. So we're happy to have Elviona on the line. I would strongly advise everyone to take advantage of the lineup that we have and to ensure that you ask all of the questions that you can humanly think about. So without further ado, I'd like to turn our call over to Ms. Shirley Walls. Shirley, thank you for being with us today, and all yours.
Thank you, Onika. Hello, everybody. As Onika said, I am on the Mega Million retirement plan, so if you all do not hear from me after today, you know that I won that jackpot. So we're going to get started here, and first you see on your screen the U.S. Small Business Administration. The next screen is going to show that it's SBA Little Rock and Fresno Commercial Loan Servicing Centers. Some of your loans will be coming to Little Rock, and some of your loans go to Fresno. And this is guidance on the 1502 reporting. It's only a guidance, and then that's what I'll be training on, the guidance on the SBA 1502 reporting. The 1502 reporting agenda. What is 1502? What is reported? The calculator, the ongoing servicing fees, sold and unsold, the common 1502 errors, the 1502 E-Trans screen, the important things that you should remember, the resources, and the Colson contact information and question and answers. This is part of what is reported. The 1502, it is mandatory that you use this form for all of your 7A loans with an outstanding balance to the SBA, regardless of the payment activity. When you should report, the report should be to COSN the third calendar day of each month. If that third calendar day is not a business day, you will have the next business day to report it, plus you have 2 business day grace periods. It is your responsibility to know what loans to report to COSN. It is not COSN's responsibility to know what loans you should report to them. Another important thing is to get familiar with COSN's website. It would have the 1502 calculator out there to help you with all of your reporting. You enter the information in the 1502 report, and it will basically calculate it for you. And you also have the COSN's website at the bottom of the screen. What is reported? This is what you will be reporting to COSN every month on your 1502 report. The month ending is the prior month. What you reported for October of this year, it was for last month, 9/1/18 through 9/30/18 is what you should have reported for October. The SBA loan number, very important. That loan number, that SBA GP number is mandatory, and it should be on all of your reports that you send in to COSN. The lender loan number, that is your loan number that you have attached to the SBA GP number. It is not a mandatory number, it's optional, but it would be a good idea if you still list your lender loan number to make sure that you are reporting with the correct SBA GP number. The next installment due date. The next installment due date is the date of the borrower's next scheduled payment. COSN codes and SBA codes, those codes are not the same. SBA and COSN codes are totally different. SBA has codes and COSN has codes. The codes 1 through 3 would automatically populate on your 1502 report when you're reporting it to COSN. It's automatically. These are not 1, 2, 3 that you would put on your 1502 report. The 1 is for disbursed current. The 2 is for past due. The 3, delinquent disbursed. And the system will determine these 3 automatically by the next due date that you are reporting on your 1502 report. Now, codes 4 through 9 is reported by you. So when you are reporting these codes, you have to make sure that you are reporting them correctly. If not, that's where your 1502 will probably get off track if you don't report those codes correctly. Like the 4 is for deferred. The 5 is for in liquidation status. You can also complete this part not only on the 1502 but in E-Tran if you have access to E-Tran. But when you're reporting it through E-Tran, make sure that you also report it on your 1502 for that same month as well. Paid in full. This status is completed through, you can complete this status through E-Tran as well. You would also use this code when the loan has paid in full. But you have to be careful when you're using this code because you don't want to actually cancel your guarantee. Sometimes we would get requests in where the lender asks us to terminate the guarantee, and that's only because they wasn't sure that they were not necessarily wanting to terminate it, but at least to show the loan is being paid in full. The transferred, that's transferring the loan from one participating lender to another one. It's called a transfer participation, and that is a code 7. The purchase loan purchased by, this is where SBA will pay you your guaranteed portion. You would code it a code 8. And 9 is fully undisbursed. Once a revolver has been disbursed, it should not be reported as a code 9, even if the balance is 0. We do get a lot of emails in and requests in that you have actually coded the loan as a 9 on a revolver, but once the revolver disperses even 1 penny, that loan is considered fully dispersed.
And Shirley, we have a question.
Okay.
What is the difference between past due and delinquent disbursed?
Past due is when the loan is only 30 days past due, 30 to 60 days past due. Delinquent disbursed is most of the time the loan is either 61 or more days past due. And we're still looking at what is reported. You would have to report the amount for the disbursed amount on the total loan and the undisbursed amount for the total loan. And you have to, again, watch out for the revolving lines because you should not be reporting having those undisbursed amounts change where you're reporting on an undisbursed loan. The interest rate. If the loan is sold on the secondary market, the rate reported to COSN may be the note rate minus the servicing fee rate. And there's an example right there. If there's a 6%, you do minus the 1%, and you're going to report it to COSN with the 5%.
And we did get another question.
Okay.
What is fully undisbursed?
Fully undisbursed is a code 9. That means that you have not disbursed any of the money on the loan at all. The loan is still with the full amount of the loan that was actually approved for. The next screen was still showing on what you should be reporting. The guaranteed portion interest. And most of the time your loans are at 50, 75, or 80%. The same with the guaranteed portion, 50, 75, or 80%. The total amount to the physical transfer agent, the guaranteed portion of the fee. You should be reporting the interest paid to date. The from date and to date is very important. The number of days. All of you all might not use the same calendar basis, but it's 365 divided by 365 or the 360 divided by 360. And you have to pay the penalty if you are late. The fee is charged if you do not forward the secondary market payments according to the terms in the SBA Form 1085 or 1086. So please read your Form 1085 or 1086, whichever one you sign, to make sure that you are reporting your reports on time so you will not be charged with that late fee. The loan type. When you're reporting, you got to decide on whether the loan was sold or unsold. It is your responsibility to know which loans were sold and which loans were not sold. And that would be a drop-down box, and you choose the appropriate box, and it would give you the basis points for the ongoing fee. The unsold loans, that was approved after 10/1/2015, with the gross amount greater than $150,000, the basis points was 47.3. And now we'll take a quick look at the 1502 calculator. And I have that calculator actually pulled up on my screen. One second here. You all are already familiar with the screen, but I just wanted to just show it before I move on with the example that I'm going to show.
Hey, Shirley, is that on the Microsoft Excel? Down at the bottom, there you go.
Yes, I got it here. Thank you. And this is the 1502 calculator. And as I was stating before, you have to select the type. You enter all of this information, and it will basically calculates it for you. again, that was the 1502 calculator. SBA ongoing fee for sold versus the unsold. The unsold loan, SBA ongoing fee is remitted in the total FTA column. And I don't have a double screen here so we can actually see it. And the lender wires that ongoing fee to COSN. Okay, the ongoing fee, the basis points, you have to see the policy notice that was in effect at the time that loan was approved. But the basis fees for 2018, last fiscal year, was 55 basis points. And if I'm not mistaken, I think those fees are the same for fiscal year 2019. We have an example here for an unsold loan. It's at $150,000, and the guarantee fee is 75%. The guarantee basis points is 55%. So you're doing it $150,000 times the 75%, the guarantee amount. You see the amount that you would have is the $112,500 times the 55 basis points would be the $618.75. And you're going to divide that by your calendar accrual, the 360 or the 365. And we use the 360, and this is the amount that we came up with, the 51,656 is what you would be reporting to the fiscal transfer agent. We also have an example of a revolver loan or term with multiple disbursements. You have your guaranteed interest amount times the fee rate and divided by the note rate. So you got 800 times the fee divided by the 12%, and you come up with the 33.33. This is the amount that will actually be sent to the fiscal transfer agent as well. Your sold loan, the lender wires the secondary market portion of the monthly payment to COSN. That is for you to do to make sure that those payments are to COSN. The sum of the guaranteed portion plus the guaranteed principal is reported and remitted to COSN. The guaranteed interest, you have an example, the guaranteed interest less the servicing fee is going to equal to $733.33. And I know you all are wanting to know how did I come up with that $733.33. I'll do my best to try to explain it to you. And we did this on a $100,000 loan times the 12%. And you divide that by the 360, and you would get times the 30 days, and you would get $1,000 on the total loan interest. The $1,000 times the 80, the 80%, which is the 80% guarantee, you're going to equals the 800. The guaranteed portion would be 800. But the 100,000 times the, then you're going to get the 80,000. Times the 1%, and you're going to divide that by the 360 times the number of days, which is the 30 days, and you're going to end up with the 66.67. And the way we come up with the $733.33, you subtract the $800, the guaranteed portion, minus the 66.67, which is the servicing fee, and you would end up with $733.33. The amount that should go to the fiscal transfer agent is $893.33. So you would add the guaranteed principal to that amount, and you would end up with $893.33. So the fiscal transfer agent removes the SBA ongoing fee and sends it to the SBA. SBA no longer calculates this fee. Okay, if the lender is late with the 1502 report and the wire, I mean, you would also pay a late fee just as well as you would if you was late sending in your home mortgage or any other type of loan that you would have to pay. If you're late, you still have to pay that late fee as well. Go ahead.
We got a question.
Okay.
A couple of slides back and this slide on guarantee interest portion, Is it maximum 85% versus the 80% discussed?
On the one that we just did with the 733? Is that the one she's talking about?
Yes.
It's at 80%.
Shirley, can I jump in there real quick just to clarify?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just note that the 80% that you're referencing is just for the example that's given for the slide. But on the secondary side, you're basically calculating based on each individual loan guarantee percentage. So depending on the individual loan guarantee is how you're calculating the secondary calculation. So it wouldn't be across the board 80% or 85 or 75. It's based on each individual loan based on that loan's guarantee. The 80% being referenced is just for the illustration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the late fee to SBA would be 5% of the unremitted amount or $100, whichever is greater. And the late fee to COSN is calculated at 12% per annum on any unremitted amount. And this will conclude the fees on the SBA sold and unsold. And these are some of the common errors that we find on the 1502 reporting. And those errors are the loan status incorrectly in the paid in full status of Code 6. And we always ask the question, why is this loan in their paid in full status when it's actually showing that they're still submitting payments to us? If you repurchase the loan off the secondary market for the purposes of doing a payment modification and you just forgot to show it paid in full, that would also make the loan have that incorrect code as well for the paid in full status. A revolver loan paid down to 0 and marked paid in full, the loan is still active. If the revolver pays down to 0, that doesn't necessarily mean that the loan is paid in full. They just paid down their revolver portion of the loan, but the loan is still active. The SBA approves a transfer from one lender to another one. We get that all the time as well. The lender that's transferring the loan should not mark the loan as paid in full. You should mark the loan as a 7, which is transferred, not paid in full on the 1502 reporting. If the loan has matured and the system automatically marks it as a paid in full within 180 days after the stated maturity on the system, that's when you would get an automatic status of a Code 6. And a loan that's disbursed and the guarantee fee not paid within 90 days of approval, the loan would not go into paid in full status, it would go into cancel status. And the way that you can resolve most of this is just sending in a request to us, telling us, or to Little Rock or either Fresno, letting us know exactly what happened, which we can also go in the system and see on ELIPS whether you have been sending in payments consistently on the loan. We'll know that the loan was inadvertently marked paid in full, and we can go have that loan reversed from paid in full status back to a current status. Or if the loan has canceled and the guarantee fee has been paid in the time frame, or within that time frame right after that loan was canceled, we can also have that loan reinstated as well. But you have to make sure that you send it to us ahead of time, because the lenders are not to go in the system and reinstate any loans that have canceled or reinstate any loans that have, where you can't reinstate the ones that have the paid in full status. We're continuing with the errors that we see.
And we got a question.
Okay.
If SBA purchases loan from secondary market, is the status paid in full?
If SBA purchases it from the secondary market?
Yes.
I think so. I'm not really sure. Is that correct, Victor? Because I haven't actually had one that happened like that.
Yeah, for an SBA guarantee purchase on the secondary market, the lender would still be reporting as status code 8 on the next 1502, and then basically everything moving forward, the lender is remitting directly to the SBA as far as any recoverables. So once the SBA purchases the guarantee, it's always status code 8, whether it's a lender's repurchase or from the secondary.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, on the reporting errors, the current status, but E-Tran is showing the delinquent status. The delinquent status is automatic and is tied to the next installment due date. So if you're telling us that this loan is in current status, but it's showing on our system as delinquent status, that means that when you reported it on the 1502, your next installment due date was incorrect, or the borrower evidently made a payment and it's just not. But when he made the payment, you had already reported it on the 1502 report. Disbursed, but E-Tran showing undisbursed. You can always go into E-Tran and see these examples as well if you're saying that the loan has been disbursed, but it's showing on E-Tran as undisbursed. Most likely, the it was done on the recent 1502 reporting. Any errors will prevent the status of the loan from changing to from undisbursed to disbursed status. But anytime you see that, you can always go back to your 1502 reporting and see exactly how you reported it to COSN. If you reported it as disbursed and it did not show disbursed on our system, you might want to check the dates of when you sent in that report in order for it to download to SBA. It was probably maybe a day or so that when you reported it, it did not get corrected in our system, uploaded correctly in our system.
And we got a question.
Okay.
If the lender does not sell on the secondary market, is there a late fee charged?
Late fees are charged.
There's no late penalty assessed for non-sold loans. But lenders are required to report their entire portfolio no later than the final due date. But currently, as far as a monetary late penalty, they're currently not assessed against non-secondary loans.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, absolutely.
The loan is current, but E-Tran is showing it terminated. It can be where you might have incorrectly terminated the guarantee on the 1502 or on E-Tran. And if you send it in to us, we can also look at it to see exactly what happened and get that corrected for you. And a lot of times, the lender will send in a request and tell us to actually terminate the guarantee. I try to tell my people to make sure that they call and ask them, are they sure they want to terminate the guarantee, or do they just want to mark the loan as paid in full? Because normally if you terminate the guarantee, it'll be as though the loan never existed. And I don't think that you might want to do that if the loan still has an outstanding balance out there. And you're still working with the borrower in some kind of way. You don't want to just terminate the guarantee on the loan. But if that happens and it actually gets terminated, you can send that request in to us. We would take a look at it and work with you in the best way we can in order to get it back to the current status that it needs to be in. Another error that we find, the loan balance is being reported, but no disbursement amount is being reported. So that's almost like a code 9. You're reporting the loan, but you're not reporting anything that's being disbursed. That's another error that we see a lot as well. The loan balance is greater than the approved amount. We do see that where the loan amount could be $100,000, but you're actually reporting the loan as $150,000. That's another error that you would get. One of those codes from COSN that show you that the balance, outstanding balance, undisbursed amount is more than the actual approval amount. The revolver loan incorrectly booked in the system as a term loan, and the undisbursed funds after 48 months decreased from the loan amount. We do get this a lot as well. Some of the loans are in the system as a term loan, but we see that you have been reporting the loan and servicing the loan as a revolver. And after the 48 months, all the funds that have not been dispersed, those funds will cancel on that loan. And it's simply because the loan has been coded incorrectly in the system as a term loan instead of a revolving line of credit. Because most of your term loans will have the full disbursement on the first disbursement of that loan. The loan amount can also be entered incorrectly in the system by you, and also can be entered incorrectly in the system by SBA. If you send us a request in, for instance, like I said, an increase entered in the system, we can enter the increase in the system incorrectly, which would also cause the balance to be greater than the loan amount, and that's something we can actually fix if we see the loan where we have actually entered the information in the system incorrectly. That can be an easy fix as well. The loan not reporting on the 1502, it could be an incorrect loan number that has been entered. Or it also could be an incorrect servicing lender. Sometimes the ID numbers are incorrect for your servicing area. It might be pulling up the ID number for your main, well, it should be for the main bank and not for the branch bank. That servicing ID lender could be incorrect on there. That's stopping you from reporting, that's preventing you from reporting it on the 1502. We're still with the 1502 errors. Anytime you has an error that's being reported, you will receive a notification from COSN that loan has been incorrectly reported for one reason or another. And it is your responsibility to make sure that you get that error corrected. The easiest and the best way to get that done is through the dashboard. If you don't have access to the dashboard, it would be a good idea to get access to that dashboard, because the dashboard, it has a lot of valuable information out there that can help you get the errors corrected. You can also get your errors corrected on your next 1502 report. If you're reporting an incorrect balance for the previous month, and then your next 1502 is coming up, you can get that corrected on that 1502 report, which would actually correct that error that you had prior to sending it in. The next 1502 error is going to be an example. This is an example of a balance where the loan amount and no disbursement. As you can see, the loan up here is showing active undisbursed. Even though you showed down here at the bottom that the loan was actually disbursed for $250,000, but you came up, but you're not showing any undisbursed amounts over here. Well, you dispersed it. It showed that you dispersed it in 2012 for $250,000, but the loan amount is also $250,000. But you're showing an outstanding balance of $333,000, which is actually more than the amount that SBA approved. So that's why you're getting these code errors over here. Now, the 1042 code is telling you that the outstanding balance plus the amount undisbursed cannot exceed the current loan amount. That's why you're getting these error codes over here. A revolver reported disbursed, undisbursed. So on this part here, where you see where on 2011 or 2013, you have a code, you have these code 9 here, which is showing that the loan is fully undisbursed. That's what a code 9 is. But you're also seeing where you're getting the errors over here, the 1032. The code 9 is outstanding balance must be 0. but you're showing that you disbursed 1,000 and your outstanding balance is 1,000 and your undisbursed amount is 4,000. But that error is saying by you reporting it as a code 9, that outstanding balance should be a 0, not 1,000. That's why you're getting the errors over here that should be corrected. And the 1033 error that you're getting is telling you that the total amount undisbursed must equal the current loan approval amount. And when you're getting these errors like this, you can actually hover over them, and it would actually tell you exactly what that error code is for. And that's how you would respond back to COSIN with that error being corrected. On this example number 3, you're showing that this loan has no disbursements at all. And it's showing up here on the status bar, it's active undisbursed. And you go down here to the 1502 history, you're showing that you have no disbursements at all, but you're also showing you have an outstanding balance. So in order to have an outstanding balance, you have to report a disbursed amount in order to show your outstanding balance. And that's why you're also getting the warnings and the error codes over here. And it also tell you that the warning, with an outstanding balance, the loan disbursed amount must be greater than 0. But you have no disbursements here, but you have an outstanding balance that's showing. So those errors will have to be corrected. And we're just showing here that it's telling you how they show the 1502 screen. You just click on it, which we already showed the 1502 payment history. And this is what you have here. And on this one here, it's saying why is the loan reported as a delinquent for the month of May. And the reporting this 3 is automatic because it's tied to the next installment due date. That's why the system automatically coded it as a 3 because of the next installment due date. And as I said before, you can hover over the GSS code and the error codes, and it'll tell you exactly what those error codes are for. And as well as we can. And also, when you all are having these error codes, you can call us and we can actually walk you through it, because the same screen that you see, we can see here in the office as well. As long as you have access to E-Trend, we can see the same screen that you're looking at. For the 1502 reporting, these are just some of the things that you must remember. Again, it's mandatory that you report all of your loans to the 1502 reporting that has an outstanding balance to SBA, regardless of the payment activity. It is your responsibility to know what loans to report to COSIN, not what COSIN should know what you're supposed to be reporting. The consequences if you're late, sold loans, there's money consequences, plus it'll probably will mess with your score if you have too many late loans that's coming through there. And the unsold loans, the same thing, might hit your score. All the errors that you're getting should be corrected. Once you get those error codes, they should be corrected either right then, or you can make sure that you are correcting those errors on your next 1502 reporting. And you should always think about the dashboard. If the dashboard is out there to help, it has also helped us here in the office. We're not as familiar with it as we should be, but we're getting there. Looking at the dashboard is where here at the center. Some of the resource material that would also be helpful for the 1502 is make sure you're looking at the 5010, and that would be the 5010 that was in effect at the time the loan was approved. Your 1502 information, the E-Trend servicing screen, if you don't have access, is really a good idea to get access to it so you can actually look at the same screen that we see once you call in to us so we can look at it together. The reinstatement form for the loans that you have inadvertently coded as paid in full or canceled, that reinstatement form would help out in order for us to get that loan back on the books for you. The COSN website, and the COSN website is listed, the 1502 calculator, and the 1502 field descriptions. A lot of this is out there on their COSN dashboard, which is really very helpful and also has helped us here in the center as well. And the 1502 reporting, you can, they have COSN's customer service line. We're also available. I didn't put our numbers on there, but we're also available for the Little Rock office. If you need any kind of help on your 1502 reporting or a question about your 1502 reporting, you can always call us here at the center, and I'm going to repeat that number. It's 800-644-8564. Again, that number is 800-644-8564. And I also included COSN's email address as well. This concludes the reporting on the guidance that I have for the 1502 reporting. Any questions that you might have, I would be more than happy to try to answer them.
And ladies and gentlemen, as we move to Q&A, please feel free to place yourself into the question queue by pressing #2 on your telephone keypad. You will hear a notification when your line is unmuted. At that time, please then state your name and question. As well, you may submit a written question using the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen, choosing All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu.
Hi, everyone. This is Onika. We have an excellent opportunity here to chat with folks here and ask them some of the questions that you have. We have Elgiona here from Okram, and so I know there is someone in the audience with a question for Okram as far as how they're looking at these portfolios, how do they evaluate the way community advantage lenders service and liquidate their loans. But we'll focus on servicing today. I am sure there are lots of questions that are out there, so please utilize this time to ask your questions.
And we did get our first question. Is the $100 late fee for each loan or for each lender report?
No, it's not for each loan. It is for the entire report. I'm trying to go back to it here.
You want me to jump in there, Shirley?
Yes, please.
Okay. Specific to the secondary, any potential secondary late penalty for late payment remittance, the late penalty is 5% of the payment amount or $100, whichever one is greater. So keep in mind it's going to be per loan. And it's going to either be 5% of the payment or $100, but it's the one that is going to be whichever one is higher, not the lowest amount. But you do have a max on your entire remittance of $5,000.
And when is a loan considered late, from the due date or the last interest paid to date?
For loans that are sold on the secondary, you must have secondary payments due. The wire must be submitted no later than the final 1502 due date. There is a scheduled payment remittance, so we do give you the final due date for the entire calendar year. So there is a scheduled due date, but you absolutely have to make sure that you have those payments in no later than the final due date each month. That's going to take the 2 business day grace period into consideration. So each month the final date is going to always fall sometime between the 5th and the 8th of the month. But we do have the schedule that gives you the final due date for the entire calendar year.
And this is John Gossett out of Fresno. I would just like to add something to that. This is very important of why your office should have more than one person doing the 1502 report. I have received more than one call from offices where that report was late, and there was that additional charge, that late charge. And the reason it was late is the gentleman was sick. and nobody else in the office was doing that. So I would say make sure you've got at least 2 people that are doing that 1502 report every month, especially if you have loans sold on the secondary market.
The next question. We have a lender service provider that submits our 1502 to Colson. Can we also have access to the dashboard?
Absolutely. The dashboard is a multiple use application, so even if you're utilizing an LSP, the dashboard assigns personal unique login, so the lender may have access. It would just require you sending our client services team an email, and we'll go ahead and get you signed up. Just one thing you always want to make note of as far as the dashboard is concerned, it does require regular login attempts, so you can't enroll in it and just keep the ID as a nice-to-have in case you need it. You have to be committed to logging in on a regular basis, or you will be terminated.
Just a reminder to everyone on the phone, you may press #2 to enter the question queue verbally, or you may add a question by using the chat panel. And at this time, I'm not seeing any further questions.
Elviona, are you on the line still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit while we're waiting for questions, can you talk a little bit about what you see from a risk perspective with our community advantage lenders as far as how they manage their portfolios? And can you talk a little bit about some of the implications as well as how some of those implications impacted some of the changes that happened with community advantage recently?
I know that for 1502 reporting, we generally check to see if it's 100%, because if it's not, then it means that they're not reporting properly. I'm not sure if anyone has any specific questions in regards to the changes. The changes are moving forward, so like the percentage of loan loss reserves, that increase in stuff that is for loans moving forward. There's no one on this phone. I'm assuming that would be a new CA applicant, but there is also a new community advantage guide that will give guidance on what we're looking for.
Thank you very much, Elviona. John and Shirley, in terms of the community advantage portfolio that you see flowing through the centers, right? I know we talked about 1502 reporting, but what are some of the other servicing-related issues that you're seeing and that probably our CA lenders should pay a little bit more attention to or pay attention to?
The main ones that we're seeing here in Little Rock is it really just only relates to the 1502 as far as the reporting and, not reporting the loan that's being dispersed, but you're having the outstanding balances out there. Inadvertently reporting the loan is paid in full. Those are some of the main ones that we're getting. But as far as the servicing part right now for here in Little Rock, we're not getting any that's too bad.
This is John out of Fresno. I've gotten several calls lately just regarding loans that have been maybe in default more than 90 days, and maybe they've been sold on the secondary market. So it's like, what do we do? Well, you need to get it repurchased from the secondary market. Make that decision. Are you going to repurchase it, or are you going to have the SBA repurchase it? I've had several of those. Another one is based on guarantee fees, especially if there are companion loans that maybe you have done or another bank has done, especially if a loan has been done within 90 days, maybe after your loan and you don't know about it and you were following a waiver, and the companion loans, when you add them together, they add up to more than that waiver. So now your loan gets a guarantee fee added to it. You don't find out until maybe 90 days later or more because of when the borrower did their loan with another lender. We've seen those. I do have a question here, very specifically for Victor. And Victor, as a lender, we have a loan that pays off in the middle of the month, and I am supposed to be doing my 1502 report. Should I do my 1502 report on just that loan when it pays off, or should I wait to the end of the month? And if I do one in the middle of the month, if I do my 1502 report for a loan that is paid off in the middle of the month, do I need then to report it on my month-end report?
All right, John. So I'm assuming you're referring to loans that are sold on the secondary?
Either or.
Okay, so specific to non-sold loans, you're never required to report mid-month, a payoff mid-month. So basically, for your non-sold loans, you're always reporting your payoff activity on the regular month end. The only exception to that rule that I would recommend is sometimes you have a lender that needs to close out one loan to get another one authorized or get another loan approved for the borrower, and they need to close out the first loan. That would be the only exception to that rule, that if you absolutely need to get a loan closed out in order to get another one approved, then you can go ahead and report the payoff activity, once you post it. Every other scenario for non-sold loans is on the regular month end. For loans that are sold on a secondary, the easiest rule of thumb to remember is that interest cannot stop accruing on the secondary market until we get funds in to pay the loan off. So you would absolutely never hold a secondary payoff to your month-end report because the lender is going to stop accruing interest at the time that they receive the payoff. You have to turn right around and get that payoff in the COSIN. So there's a bunch of different rules for loans that are sold. We have to get advance notification of a minimum of 10 business days, and then the lender is going to remit the payoff once they collect it because they want interest to stop accruing on the secondary side. With that being said, you would then report the loan for E-Tran status update as Stat 6 on the month-end report. Because when you pay a loan off on the secondary during the month, the E-Tran is not getting a status update. Those processes are all internal to get the loan out of the secondary. But there's no E-Tran status update. That's going to happen on the month-end report as Stat 6. And just to supplement that, that'll be something I'll cover, when we do full 1502 training.
And Victor, I have a question that kind of goes along with that. So we report to you our loan that is paid off in the middle of the month, sold on the secondary market, but we also need it to show up as a zero balance in E-Tran. And I've submitted that report to your office, let's say on the 16th of October. How long would that report take to reflect into E-Tran? Or does it, or do I need to go into E-Tran and make that change to paid in full at that time?
Understood. So once again, specific for loans that are sold, at the time the lender collects the secondary payoff, they're going to turn right around, they're going to wire those funds in through the payoff wire instructions. At the same time, they're going to complete a 1502 remittance to show the P&I breakdown and the accrued interest. Keep in mind that payoff remittance is never going to SBA for E-Tran status update. That payoff report is only going to be used internally by our payoff team for wire allocation. It is then the reporting of status code 6 paid in full with a zero balance on the next regular month end. That's going to go to E-Tran for status update. So for sold loans, it's going to be a two-step reporting process. It's the 1502 you complete at the time of the payoff. That comes to our payoff team so they can allocate the wire, they can allocate the interest and principal based on the lender specifications. The reporting of status code 6 for E-Tran status update will take place on the next regular month end.
Got it. Thanks. Almost, Victor, like we planned that question. We did it. One other thing. If I run into that scenario and I'm the lender and we've paid that loan off, we've reported on the 1502 report, but we do need it to show as a zero balance, what you as the lender can do, you can go into E-Tran on that left-hand side that we showed you on the PowerPoint where it says, in E-Tran where it says 1502 reporting, you can click on that. Once you get to that page, there is a button at the top of that page that says paid in full. Now you've received funds, you reported to Colson, it doesn't show up in E-Tran as paid in full. Now we go into E-Tran, we click on 1502 reporting, we pull that page up, we click on the button that says paid in full, and then we can click on save. That, knock on wood, should work. That should work. And I think I saw another question pop up on the screen a second ago.
And the next question we got is, there are many moving parts to this program. Can you speak to an example of team size, i.e. FTEs needed, that you've seen to ideally and effectively run a compliant CA program?
So in order to even be approved into the program, you need at least one full-time employee. Depending on the size of your program and what your growth projections are and how much you want to grow the program, that number depends. There's organizations that have hundreds of loans, and they're going to need an individual for each section, and then there's smaller programs. So if you want to reach out to me after this call, then we can go through your specific program and how many loans you have and what your future plans are.
The next question. Is there a grace period to send in the payoff amount to Colson? I receive payment, I process payoff, and send payment to SBA next day.
There is currently no grace period on the secondary market program as it pertains to accrued interest. So basically, once again, as long as a loan is on the secondary, interest cannot stop accruing. So it's always in the lender's best interest when you collect a payoff on a loan that's sold, you want to turn right around and get that wire into Colson so then we can stop accruing interest on the secondary side and get that loan satisfied and paid off. But there's no grace period tied into the secondary. With the exception of late payments, so there are late payment scenarios where you submit your month-end report, you haven't collected the borrower's regularly scheduled payment, you send in your month-end, and then you collect a secondary payment, you are required to remit that within 2 business days. So for a late payment scenario, you have 2 business days to get the payment into Colson for processing. But for secondary payoff, there's no grace periods built in. Interest will accrue until the time we receive funds.
And the next question, why is the program being cut back by not allowing more community advantage lenders?
So I don't know if, I'm pretty sure the Federal Register notice touched on this a little bit, but basically the program has grown enough for us to see our performance. So we just want the program to, for time to pass and for us to see how the program does throughout time with the amount of lenders that we currently have. So just to give it time to see how loans do over time, just because, and that's the amount of risk we could manage right now from a headquarters perspective.
And the next question. I see a Lender Connect call on my calendar for 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Is that still scheduled?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. This is Anika. So the Lender Connect call at 3 p.m. is still going on. That is a call for 7A lenders. If you need to drop off and attend that call, you sure can. But that is not a Community Advantage specific call. That is a 7A lender call. So it would be worthwhile to have someone from your organization listen in, since the Office of Financial Assistance will be providing some 7A specific updates.
And the next question, are there any lenders using 1502 reporting software to help automate this process? I realize the panelists cannot endorse any software provider, but are there any software vendors that can be mentioned here that CA lenders use? Thanks.
This is John Gossett from Fresno. I used to work for a bank, and the program that we used for our lending, payments and that kind of thing, actually interfaced with Excel, and there was a very easy way to move from our bank program into the Excel spreadsheet, which dropped it into the 1502 report. So what you might want to do is contact your provider of whatever program that you're using and request training with them. I do know that there are some out there that actually have that built into the program, and it's really not hard to do. When I was with this one bank, we were reporting every loan individually, and it was like, this is crazy. It takes too long to do this, and we contacted the provider who provided our bank program, and they came in and said, oh, yeah, and it was like a 10-minute process compared to ours. So it's available. Check with who you're using. If you're using some kind of banking program when you accept payments and application of principal and interest, that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of them out there that do. I know that there's a lot of them out there that do have the ability to interface with the 1502 report.
And at this time, I'm not seeing any further questions. We did just get another question. Is a late payment considered a payment not made in the month it was due? For example, the due date was the 1st of the month, but the payment was received on the 30th. Or since it was made within the month, is it considered a regular payment?
Okay, that's a great question. So specific to loans that are sold in a late payment scenario, well, the first thing to keep in mind is that basically you're always remitting your 1502 in your wire for the prior month's activity. So no matter what date the loan was scheduled for the prior month, as long as you collected the payment during that month, it should be on your month-end report. That would not be deemed a late payment scenario. A late payment scenario would be a situation where you submit your month-end report, you have a loan that's sold that you did not collect the borrower's payment. And let's just kind of give a little example. Let's say for November's remittances for October's activity. If you have a loan that's sold and you don't collect October's payment, you submit your month-end report at the beginning of November, you get your wire in. Let's then say that borrower comes in and makes that payment for October, and you've already submitted your month-end report. That's a late payment scenario. You're not allowed to float that payment until the next 1502 remittance. That would be a case where you would submit that transaction on a separate report, and then that would be a late payment scenario.
Okay, this is Onika. We are a little bit over after 3 p.m. I want to make sure that we get everyone's questions in before we dismiss folks, because I know some people would like to join in on that 7A Connect call. Do we have any questions on the line, Rachel?
At this time, I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay, and I don't see any questions on the chat. So if anyone has any questions, I will repeat myself again. The presentation will be sent shortly. The recording for this session will be sent to all attendees. Once we receive it, we'll probably receive it in about a week or so, and so I'll make sure and send that out to everyone after the end of the series. Tomorrow is the last of the series. We will be talking about liquidation for Community Advantage Part 2, and for those of you that were on the first presentation, I would recommend that you read through the prior presentation that you would have received so that you can have your questions ready for tomorrow. I want to take a second to thank Shirley. Thank you for doing an excellent job presenting this. Victor, thank you so much for supporting us all of the time, 100% of the time. John, as always, thank you so much for being online. And Elviona, thank you for coming in and representing OCRM today. Rachel, thank you for being an awesome host. And with that, we can go.
Thank you for joining today's conference. The session is now concluded, and you may disconnect.